Okay friends, it's time to get started on our job. One of the first things you want to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. After that, we're going to go ahead and remove the center cover. Typically, if you were to look along the rim and the center cover, you're going to find a little cutout. Carefully get in between there without damaging the wheel and gently pry this off. We'll just give it a quick inspection. You can set that aside, and now we can move along to removing all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts and then the wheel. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, we have a nice clear view of our outer tie rod end and our inner tie rod end. Let's continue on to this area right here. This is considered your jam nut. It holds the inner tie rod end and the outer tie rod end together. I'm going to use a 21mm wrench. We'll put this right onto the jam nut and we're going to turn this clockwise to loosen it up. Once that's broken free, continue on to the outer tie rod end nut. Now sometimes on this nut, you might happen to find that it has a cotter pin. If it does, just go ahead and remove it. If it doesn't, use your 21mm socket to remove the nut. Now you can separate the outer tie rod end from the knuckle. Now at this point, we can continue on by unscrewing the outer tie rod end from the inner tie rod end. Let's go ahead and wipe down the shaft here where that outer tie rod end is going to go. Once you're sure that it looks clean, let's continue on with a little bit of copper never sees. Now it's time to install our outer tie rod end. Now once you have it back in the proper position, go ahead and put the jam nut right against the outer tie rod end. Let's put the outer tie rod end into the knuckle. Put on your castle nut. Now let's bottom this out. Now let's torque this to 52 foot-pounds. The next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that one of the slots on your nut is going to line up with the hole in the stud. If for some reason it does not line up, you need to continue tightening the nut until the very next slot does. After you have it through, go ahead and pin it over so it locks the nut in place. Let's move up to the jam nut. For this, you want to make sure it's nice and tight up against that outer tie rod end. Make sure that's tight. Now the next thing you want to do is make sure that the outer tie rod end is parallel to the ground. If it seems like it's a little off kilter, just go ahead and grab onto it with something and then just give it a little twist until it is parallel. Let's just double check everything to make sure it's nice and tight. Now it's time to get the wheel up on here. Let's go ahead and start on all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. After that, we can bottom them out, get the wheel back on the ground, and then we'll torque each of them to 100 foot-pounds. Now we can torque the lug nuts in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Of course, if you do have a center cover, go ahead and put that on now. Paying attention to the back, you can see 5 slots. They line up with 5 lug nuts. Line it up, bonk it in position. Okay friends, we got our front end back together. What's left to do now? Now, whenever you do any type of front end work, it's important to make sure that you go down and get yourself a 4-wheel alignment. Thanks for watching.